Welcome back, everyone. Or for those of you who are just checking in now, welcome. Hello, my name is Amber and I am the moderator of the day. It's time to kick off the second track of the Tech for Good conference, and that is the education track. In this track, we'll dive deeper into the role of technology in education, and we'll do so with the help of Frank Uffen, Managing Director of Community and Partnerships at the Student Hotel. Hi, Frank.
Hey, Amber.
How are you?
Today.
Are you excited about today?
I'm very excited, yeah.
Nice.
So you are already quite involved
actually in the topic of education and how it's been developing in the past decennia. What role do you feel that technology plays in this process?
Well, technology has become a major enabler for the kind of education that is really important to the Student Hotel. Particular, it has enabled or empowered people to study in different locations. And last year, of course, everybody knows that COVID underlined that even more. A good Wi-Fi connection these days is more important in accommodation than the quality of your mattress or your private bathroom. So technology is, Wi-Fi is one, but it has enabled also so many more ways of learning and connecting. And I think that's also why we wanted to talk about it today.
Yeah, because
that's actually the topic of the panel, indeed, the synergy between digital learning and lifelong in-person learning. And
exactly. Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm going to hand over to you because you are the moderator of this session. So have fun. The speakers are waiting for you. I'll leave it up to you to introduce them. And I will see you again in an hour.
Okay. You then. Hello, everyone. Also on my behalf, welcome back to the conference, or welcome to this conference. I'm very excited about joining because I think it's a topic that is close to the Student Hotel, but also close to a lot of our partners. And I'm very happy that a lot of you were able to join. And we have a few ways of engaging you. We have the obviously the chat, but we also are curious about your opinion. So during this session, I will also launch a few polls to see how you think about this subject. But you probably didn't come for me. You saw the invitation. We have great panelists for a conversation about Tech for Good, in particular related to the challenges that the education sector faces. And with challenges, I mean it more as in an opportunity, perhaps. Amber just asked me, what is important in terms of technology in the way education has evolved in our perspective, and of course Wi-Fi is one. But what I really, really admire in the people that we invited today is that they take technology as an enabler for broadening their impact and basically also expanding the mission of education. So it's not so much anymore about obtaining a degree, but really to understand what kind of skills the next generation of learners need to have. And each of the three panelists is contributed to this in their own way. So today, an exchange about their experiences, their vision, and also hopefully a wonderful network opportunity because we can learn so much from each other in this period. So with no further ado, I love to invite the panelists to join. Are you all there?
Hi, Frank.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Hello.
Great. So I'm not going to say to my left or my right because I know that in Zoom that can constantly switch, so you get really confused and dizzy. But on the screen you see a few wonderful people. On the first, Farshida, director of the Erasmus X project at the Erasmus University, and a special project that we will hear more about, but what I liked about it is that she was given the mandate by the university to really think of the future of education from a traditional higher education institute. The other wonderful woman in this panel is Giulia. Giulia is the global director of the School of Innovation of Talent Garden. Our colleagues that started in Italy but are now a European-wide network of co-working spaces that have evolved into a deliverer of state-of-the-art education programs that really try to match or even close the gap between the digital skills that are needed in the workplace right now and the skills that people still lack, whether they're young students or already professionals. And then last but not least, Marco van Hout, one of the founders of Digital Society School, also with its roots in a university, the University of Amsterdam Applied Sciences, a special project, a special platform, physically and also organizationally located a bit outside of the university, not a traditional degree program, but a really innovative way where studying and learning together doesn't only happen inside this institute, but also in a global network. So hopefully also there some really inspiration. And the reason why we invited you is not only because we find you inspiring, but also the Student Hotel is really looking forward to collaborate with you. We have done already a few projects here and there, but we really look forward to that this dialogue will also inspire our partnerships. But maybe to start with you, Farshida, how would you summarize the problem that you're trying to solve? And I mentioned the university, but maybe also from your personal perspective, what really motivates you to fix with your project?
Wow, thank you. Hi guys. Hi. That's a great question, Frank. Well, from a personal perspective, I truly believe in the emancipatory function of education. I think education broadens your horizon. It gives you the tools you basically need to sustain your future, to make something for yourself, right? So it helps you to become the person you are. So, that for me is my personal motivation. And I do think if you look at higher education and higher educational institutions right now, I think we're about 100 years behind of what's going on in society with technology, what's going on in our student lives, and I think I always make the comparison between dinosaurs and a meteorite, right? So if we would say, and this is not going to give me any credits with university, but I'm just going to say it anyway. If you would compare the university as a dinosaur, you would compare technology as a meteorite. It's going to hit you. You can see it coming, but yet we're all just standing there waiting for it to happen. And I think that is what the problem that we're trying to solve is, not so much introducing new technology to the university, but introducing new ways of working to make it easier to adopt and adapt to, all these rapid changes that are coming towards us. So from the university perspective, the problem I'm trying to solve is I'm trying to change the culture around innovations within the institution, how to deal with these rapid changes, but also to figure out what is it that we need to do to become future ready. So it's a lot of questions, a lot of critical questions, no answers yet, but I've just started. So
no, very good. Well, I think, Marco, if you use the metaphor of the meteorite landing on the institution that you came from, what kind of way of catching that one have you developed? Or in other way, what is the problem that you were trying to solve with your team?
Yeah, so this is... Hi, everybody, by the way. Thanks for inviting me. So Digital Society School is officially part of the University of Applied Sciences in Amsterdam, but we have always indeed put our leg somewhat outside of the university as well. So we have this three-legged monster, you might say, where we have the municipality involved with Amsterdam, we have the university involved, and a lot of industrial partners, companies, organizations that also believe in us and also fund us. And I think if you talk about the meteorite and technology, it's not only that it's just coming to us. I mean, we're already in it. So just like with planet Earth, we're on it, and sometimes you go into space and then you see it, and then you get this kind of effect that they call this overview effect. And I think that's what we need. So we need this kind of like new overview effect to shift our mindset about what transformation is, what kind of transformation we are in. And that is really something that we as Digital Society School are focused on. And just to give an example, So we live in this digital society, and a lot of the things that we develop is really about changing things. And I always make this difference and comparison between change and transformation and how they are different. And change is really about the past. You try to fix something, you really look back, and then you try to change that. And it really is about asking questions about what is wrong. And we do that a lot. We also, in this pandemic, we ask a lot of questions of what's wrong with us, what's wrong with the world, what's wrong with the systems. But if you want transformation, it's really about focusing on creation and on co-created futures that we want. And so you need to not ask only about what's wrong, but also what if? What if we do this? What is meaningful, etc. And that is something that we focus a lot on at Digital Society School, and we need a lot of different groups for that. So if you look at humanity, we're of course not only students. We're not only one generation that we. And I talked to Nora Bates, a famous author and filmmaker, recently for a podcast, and she mentioned that. It's not our responsibility only to just give the next generation the new tools, because then you hand it over. No, you have to do it together. And that's something that we focus on. So we have cross-generational, cross-disciplinary, cross-cultural education and learning experiences within our school. And we do that at a global level, indeed, rooted in Amsterdam.
Great. So Farshida is teaching the dinosaurs to walk or run differently. You gave the dinosaur an extra leg outside, so I don't know, I guess that's how you would answer your dear future, I'm ready. But Giulia, your talent garden, I don't think you can call that really a dinosaur, right? Because talent garden exists since when? And how do you, what do you feel is the problem you're solving with your team?
No, we are not a dinosaur at all. But hi everyone, first. And as you can see here by my accent, I'm really Italian. I live in Rome, so really Italian. So the point here is that, Talent Garden is not a dinosaur. We are pretty young, so we are 10 years old, let me say. Young, but we already have done a lot of things. And if I have to say which kind of problem we try to solve, is that we are trying to make people to own their future by education. So what that doesn't mean from my point of view, and what makes me wake up every morning and want to do better for me and my team and for all the Talent Garden team, is actually to create a space, an educational space, a safe space where students can come. They can practice. It's like a gym, I always say. So it's a safe space where they can actually try to get ready for the job market, because that's something that it's really difficult. As we were saying before, there's a big lack between the educational part and the work environment. So what we're trying to do is to actually train people to be ready for work, with concrete tools, with concrete competence, teaching them how to actually behavior in groups and to get ready for work. And that's basically the main thing that we do in Talent Garden Innovation School. And the other thing is to support, as I was saying before, so to own their future to people that are like older, so 35, 40 years old, and they actually want to gain competence to bring that change to their work environment.
Yeah. Very interesting, because also I think, especially when we meet with young talent in Italy, but also in Spain and in many European countries for that matter, where Student Hotel has opened locations, there's not always only a concern with how to get an education and choosing the right education, but also a real concern about, being able to find a job, and that there is, that it's actually rewarding what you do and you choose an education. So it's interesting that you mentioned that reframing of what education means today for this generation. I hope we can also dig a little bit deeper in that in terms of like what it means for what we educate and what, how we learn. But before we go there, all of you, as you told me, have been working online or have been forced or willingly accepted the challenge of providing your programs this year online. And we also have a quick poll for those that are attending, because I'm curious about what everybody thinks of how sustainable that experience of the last year has been. What do you think will stay with us or with you, so to say, and what are you really eager about bringing back? Farshida, may I start with you?
Yes, thank you. So the question is, can online delivery of education remain sustainable in the long term, right?
Yeah.
So again, I'm not going to make myself popular with a lot of people right now, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. I don't think so. I think what we have experienced in the past 18 months or so is that we have dealt with emergency remote teaching. Emergency remote teaching is not online learning. Online learning is designed to create a meaningful experience and a meaningful experience for both the teacher as the student. So it's actually more designed than ad hoc action. Right now, I need to convey my knowledge. I need to transfer my knowledge. So when it comes down to online learning and online education is nothing new. It's been in our world forever. We have the Open University that has been existing forever. We have the open online courses on Coursera, on edX, on Udemy, on name them, all of them. Is it sustainable? I don't really think so. It depends on the target audience you're targeting, and it depends on what type of knowledge you're transferring. I do think it creates added value as to it provides access to education to people who might not be able to come to Europe or come to whatever part of the world they want to go to. So I think it has a real added value. I think it does help out with bringing certain types of knowledge to groups of people that might not be your usual target audience. Mm-hmm. But is this the way we want to teach? And is this going to replace universities or higher educational institutions, or even something such as Talent Ground? No, I don't think so.
Okay. Giulia, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, from my point of view, what has changed in the last month is not really the offer. I mean, the offer, yes, we all made up something to keep being there, but is the customer need. So I think that actually online education will remain and will be really strong, because so far our customer, being their students, they're used to that. And I think, in my perception, that offline education is really valuable. They're going to be there. But for a person to move, so to spend time and money, we need to give to that person something great. So they're not going to move around city, country, not even in the same town, if we don't give to the physical experience something unusual, something great. So I think that we, as educational player, we should focus our attention on how can we build offline experience. They're like wow effect.
Yeah, that's cool. Actually, I really like that. I'm curious what the audience had to say. I'm just checking here with the studio because my eyes are not that good that I can see what's happening on the screen. So, do you see the results on the screen, panel? Yeah. Marco, may I ask you then to read those results, as in, like, what do you see in the response and what do you think about it?
It's a very clear answer.
It's not very clear.
and they're all with us. I think it's no, in person is always preferred. And I think I also agree with the other panelists and with the audience that this is not sustainable in the way at least in the way we evaluate it at the moment. And so we talk about education, we talk about remote teaching. But what I would like the shift perhaps that we need to make is to focus more on learning. And so learning happens in many different forms, in many different ways, in many different moments. And I think if once we switch to that focus, and it's just as with nature, it's you can't imagine what nature is if you haven't been part of it, or if you don't feel part of it. So the same with learning. You need to have a reference point. You need to learn with someone. You need to learn. It's kind of like this tactile, tangible experience, more than we realize. And I think that's why it remains, we can say offline, online, but I think it's more about connection and about how learning, takes shape. And I think if once we make that shift, we can talk about blended, we can talk about hybrid, we can use all these words, but then we know what to do because we focus on, all this from personal to organizational to systemic learning. And then it will be a different ballgame for all of us. And I think our organizations are trying to fit in that discussion.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because today we're hosted also by Codam. Codam is, for those that don't know, a coding school, a coding college here based in Amsterdam. For a lot of the students, it's a school that is very different from the traditional education offer. It's more based on their interest in learning, coding, and designing their own way of learning. It's inspired by Codam, the institute that started in Paris. What I like about Codam is that they really also understood that a certain community did not fit in the traditional education system. Is this something that resonates with your understanding of what your platform can do, and also what maybe how online has enabled you to be open to more groups? Anyone that has experience with that or is working on that?
Well, Frank, I think it depends on, from what angle or perspective you're looking at this question. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm very familiar with Codam and also with 42, and I love what they do. It's amazing to see how they can connect to certain groups that felt that they didn't belong in a certain educational institution, whether it be a research university or applied science university or whatever type of institution. I think what Codam is doing is fantastic for these people that want to and have the talent and express it in the way that fits for them, the best way, right?
Yeah.
I think when you look at traditional educational settings, I think it's ridiculous that we're forcing children from a very young age to make specific choices that determine what the rest of their life will look like. And I don't think there's enough focus on what this type of tension and pressure is doing to students. And I don't necessarily believe that we are offering students enough alternatives to find the right fit. So you can see it in every single layer of education where you have high dropout rates. Why are these kids dropping out? There's a reason. And of course, if you have a long time passion that you want to become a cardiologist or you want to become a lawyer or whatever, those kids, those students will find their way. But there's also people who start out doing something and then along the road find out that, hey, you know what, I think I like this other thing better.
Yeah.
And we're creating these barriers for them to move, to change, to figure out who they are, to figure out what fits. So, and I think within our program, what we are trying to do is we're trying to get people together based on their interests. And we're trying to put them together based on the things that they think are important. So, and making it more student-centered instead of teacher-centered, making it more autonomous for students to maybe formulate their own learning objectives and maybe look at the problems that they would like to solve. Yeah. So by tapping into that intrinsic motivation and genuine interest, I really think that, you'll get students who are not only motivated, but really passionate about, doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know you haven't worked too long on this project, but do you see already an impact on the dropout rates? Any indication that is paying off?
No,
It's putting you on the
I
spot,
think,
I know.
no, it's way too early for
Okay.
for that kind of data. But it's a really good question. I'll write it down and I'll come back to you.
Great, we'll do it. We'll pick that one up on the next conference. Giulia, Marco, was this year also an opportunity for you to access new groups or to enable more people that had a harder time with the programs before to join your community?
Yeah, well, if I may, in our case, yes. Of course, to move to Amsterdam is a very costly thing, and obviously we managed to have a larger reach because of it. So we noticed that, for example, the continent of Africa, where we were always interested to work with, suddenly opened up for us. So we actually trained thousands of teachers from Africa in online education and in online teaching. So we were able to both educate and train the trainers of within our own institute, but also in Africa. And I think that kind of combination and having learning side to side from different continents, that was really an eye opener for us.
Mm-hmm. Giulia?
Yeah, I will say the same thing according to geography, but I think the other target that we reach were, for example, mothers that they couldn't manage to actually participate to physical education, because it's not just about the 2 days training, but you have to add moving and managing kids and stuff like that. And so a part of geography, I think even from a target point of view, we saw some people that could manage that matching with their personal life. And I think that's really important, no? Because as we were saying before, it opens up to people that maybe they don't have enough free time to actually upgrade themselves.
Yeah. Farshida, I think that's also when we spoke about Rotterdam, when you talk about the cities where your institutes are located, there are also specific challenges that you met. Is that all? I was wondering, when you talk about tech for good, and you are a techie and also have a legal career behind, do you see that enabling character, quality of tech enables you to connect with different communities that are maybe, physically also even distant from that university campus?
Yeah, that's another great question. So I think, as a techie with a law degree, I think my heart goes out to all the people who don't have access to the hardware and the software. And I think one of the main challenges we have in big cities is how to close that social and digital divide. It's hard for kids who are living with 5-6 people in one house with maybe 2 working laptops to join and to engage in society. So when you're talking about tech for good and reaching out to those communities, actually my program group and we actively go out to communities, have these discussions to see, if there's solutions, if there's opportunities for us to chip in and to help out. On the other hand, what we've seen and what we've done is, this was a really great example for the university students in Rotterdam. Last year, of course, with the lockdown, everybody felt isolated, alone. And the threat of deteriorating mental health is always around the corner, right? So one of the main things we did is we reached out to our students and basically asked them, so apart from your education and being on campus, what do you miss? And we had a lot of responses coming back as to, well, we just miss hanging out. We just miss that social component, that social interaction, which is why we built all our campus locations in Minecraft and opened up the doors to our virtual campus and said, well, if you want to do something, just join the scavenger hunt or come and visit the campus whenever you feel like it. And I think, doing these small initiatives, actually you build bridges, you build connections. Because I totally agree with Marco when he said it's not about the technology. It is not about the technology. I mean, seriously, I was taught how to use, Excel and SPSS. I mean, nowadays, my students call me boomer because they work in R. So the technology doesn't matter. It's about what do you do with it? And the first thing that matters is to build those bridges, build those connections. And whether that be through WhatsApps or, Instagram pages or TikTok clips or whatever type of technology you want to use to build that connection, you should just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
But that's my personal opinion.
And if I can add something to that.
Please.
What we experienced last year during actually the first lockdown, that the students between them, they were really research for each other. So they keep staying in Zoom until like 11 o'clock in the night, just talking. And having that boot camp was for them a strong point of reference to get through the end of the lockdown. So it was really interesting, the kind of connection that during such a hard time people create to each other. So it was really, for us, really impressive to see how they are linked. Normally, they are like really, they work a lot with each other, but like this time was really impressive to see how supporting they've been with each other. It was really good. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I add something also? What Farshida said about not the technology and about going to the community and ask what they need. And I found that really interesting. And it reminded me of something we did many years ago. We started a global goals jam, which is a hackathon, design hackathon around the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And we have now more than 95 cities participating each year, thousands of people. It's kind of this creative learning community. And I remember the first year we actually introduced technology in the community. We had a design method toolkit. People could use these methods, etc. And we thought, okay, in order to get people around those methods and share them, and we need technology. So we created the app, spent a lot of money in it, on it, and we launched it. And I think it was used 20 times or something like that. So what we noticed was it wasn't for the people in that community. It wasn't really about that, about the methods and about using. It was about connecting to the others. So we quickly shifted the year after on just getting this kind of common understanding between each other. Of course, we used technology because we were distant from each other, but it was really about making those connections all the time. So we had trainer moments, we had check-ins, we had everything, and now you have the Miro boards and murals, etc. And you can do a lot with that. So it's about sharing these experiences, sharing the insights, etc. And that was a big eye opener for us. And I think we took that also along now in our digital science school and in our programs. And I think more and more people start seeing this because now they live this. And so we all, we have the Zoom fatigue. We know what it is to be overwhelmed by technology or not interested even in the technology itself. It's really about connection. So I want to highlight that once more.
Yeah, it's a good one. I think more people have an off-the-shelf, or more people put an app back on the shelf than use off-the-shelf at the moment. We all, speaking of dinosaurs, right? We all have those in our legacy. But it's an interesting point because you're basically, when we talked in the beginning about the learning and how we facilitate learning and also revisit learning as, do we really understand learning? Do we understand what actually students want to learn and what they need to learn? You move also to what are their real needs? Like, what does technology do for them? And you mentioned the connectivity and the sort of the non-tangibles. And for me, that's also something that really, when we stood out from the surveys that we did with the current cohort of students in the different locations. Like for the first time, community was jumping up. It was now number 2 reason for them to choose for us. And for me, that was an indication of not only that it was a real need, but that there's really also a role for us to play in creating that wow effect, as you described it, Giulia. Like how, the content, it needs to be great. We need to support our education partners in the learning environment, obviously by having stable Wi-Fi and making sure there are quiet spaces for people to study and to work in small groups, all the things that are in the physical part. But it's the non-physical part, the non-tangible, where you actually develop those life skills, to give it a word, where you learn how to work together, where you meet people, where you build a network. That is something that we understood. And I spoke with one person that was actually a coworker in our office, and I asked him, was like, what did you do last year? What did you like? And he said, well, I did a tango course. And then I thought, like, oh, why, are you interested in Argentina or something? He's like, no, it was a great way to meet people. So he had no idea. He just wanted to meet people. So for him, the dance in a way was his technology, his enabler to get what he wanted. So it was an interesting twist. And I think he also got a little better at tango. But it's often that we misunderstand why people do certain things, or we misread them. But I like to, before we move on, also ask the audience, because I think this introduces also a challenging topic for education and student housing providers like us. Like, how do we shape that future? What is that offline experience? And I would love to ask the audience also how they see it. And then Marco, if you would volunteer afterwards again to summarize the results for me, then I'll be very grateful for that.
Well, we're doing it now. I'm a moderator. No, perfect.
Well, you seem to have as a professional studio as I'm currently in, so I'm sure with your screen with technology, you will do the job well. No, but the question is, what is the future purpose of student residences and campuses? And I ask you, panel, that also because all of you had your own sort of version of the physical space, and I'm wondering how you see that now as we are preparing for the next academic year as well. What are some of the new ideas that give that space more meaning? Maybe related to the experience, to creating that wow factor. Just curious about your ideas or the projects that you're working on that are happening in a physical space. Anyone that wants to jump on this one before we go to the poll results?
I can highlight the summer of transformation that we are working on together, Frank. So we are now in the midst of preparing a summer school, which is not going to be hosted in summer, which is really weird, but because of COVID, of course. But we will do it now in the 3rd week of September. We will have this summer of transformation where people can actually join in 3 cities at the same time. And it's really about, getting people in the city again, having them observe the city, trying to get a feel with what is happening there, and at the same time have this kind of transformational learning experiences. And at the same time, people in Berlin, Barcelona, and Amsterdam, they will have the same learning experience, and they will also connect with each other peer-to-peer and in facilitated sessions. And this is also, again, going perhaps beyond blended. It's not only about the technology in between, but it's really about connecting also the different problems. So it's you're co-creating your imagination of what is happening in the world in a way. And I think that's what we want to achieve with that summer of transformation, which is in September.
It's an example and project that I'm also very, very excited about. Also because it creates also a short program, a short international experience for someone that maybe not has the luxury of going abroad for a whole semester or even a year. Interesting. Giulia, what's your take on this?
We're working on basically 2 things. So creating the different experience for people that will come to our physical classroom, as we were saying before. So we're working on that. And an ingredient of that physical part will be to give some empty space. Because I think that's another important ingredient, to leave people an empty time to actually get back to connection. They are not fixed. They are not mandatory from our point of view, no? Because today the connection is really easy to connect with people and to create community because you jump in the same Zoom. And that's really useful and it works. But in the same time, when people will get back physical in the space, in our campus, so in the school, it will be important to give that freedom and get back used to go to a person and ask if they want to talk. So this empty space, I think it's an ingredient that will be part of what we are thinking about.
I think many people are not familiar with talent garden locations yet. Can you, I mentioned in the beginning, you were a co-working space before, but how would you describe like the talent garden, a typical talent garden building? And what is important in that building now?
Okay, the talent garden building are a place where crazy people live. There are people that are into innovation. They are like creative people. There are people that believes that we can actually change the world somehow. So using our brain and our project and doing our business. The main focus of each campus is the community space. So the space where people can actually stay together. So it's like a little square. If we think about, for example, the Italian city model, so it's a square where people can just sit there, be there, and connect in a not structured way, and that's the added value of what we're doing, and that's it. No, actually, before it came to me, the example between how people are dating now and how people were dating 10 years ago. So right now, with all the apps, it's really easy to get in touch with someone because it's not about your personal, but it's just about sweeping and writing. And that's what the Zoom connection is, no? It's easier because I'm sitting there, no? I'm sitting here. If now I don't feel comfortable, I just close my PC and that's it. While going back physical, it's the same fatigue, let me say, that we have in the past when we used to date by going to a guy in a bar and say, okay, I'm going to go and talk with him. So that's the difference. And I think it's important to even go back and try to train that, okay, I get up and go there way of getting contact with.
Nice. Before we go to Farshida, because I also really would like you to, I mean, especially, you know, the relationship between the Erasmus University and the city has a very interesting history. But before I invite you to speak about that, Marco, what does the poll say? And I literally cannot read it from here, I just you can give me any answer you want.
I thought it disappeared, but now I have it back. So what is the future purpose of student residence and campuses? And we have two winners, and the winner of 53% is both grow in importance as perhaps to meet like-minded people and find inspiration. So like I actually mentioned just now. And the second runner-up, the first runner-up is 42%. They will both keep its own purpose, residences to live, campus to study. So people are also just people. So study, live, and I think that's also what we notice perhaps with the work life now on Zoom and being at home. You know, It's not that easy. So interesting.
Maybe we should ask a follow-up question to that group. Where does the dating happen, right?
Wonderful metaphor, by the way. Yeah.
But Farshida, I mean, I know you're fascinated also about the offline experience and about the campus as a phenomenon. Do you recognize what Giulia is describing about this, the Medina, you know, the square, the piazza, the plaza? Please.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I completely agree with Giulia on that. I think, you know, if you look at and also in relation to the poll, if you look at the importance of having a communal space, whether that be a Medina, a piazza, a square, or a park, or I don't know, a container for all I care. I think the importance is that people get together because we're social beings in our core, and I think it's very important for people to come together, to get inspired, to build that network, to learn from peers, to understand the context and the circumstances, but also to build resiliency. Because, an important factor that we always tend to forget when it comes to education is a lot of our students are also engaging in storytelling. And they might not see that as storytelling, but they tell something about themselves. Where are you from? What have you done? How did you get here? And these stories, they build resilience. They build a backbone. So in that sense, I think it's very important to have that space, whether it be your residency, whether it be your campus, whether it be a piazza, but there needs to be space so people can come together. Isn't that all what we're really missing? I mean, seriously, the terraces were open, and I think everyone here in the Netherlands just took a week off and went to the terrace because it was blooming busy everywhere. But we are social beings in our core. We want to connect with other people. We want to be amongst other people. Not everyone, but most of us do. And I think if you look at, in relation to the poll, I think one thing that we're missing is that when it comes to living residencies, one of the main factors that help people bond is by being together also in their private lives. And I can see the difference between students from university colleges, where they have living residency, and students from university that are, from a national university going to another city that might not live together. But the people that do live together, they build bonds for the rest of their lives. And I think that is one important factor that we always forget. It's about the connection that they build for the rest of their lives, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that is the most important thing for us as universities. You can transfer all the knowledge you want online, but when you're offline, make it meaningful, make it inspiring, make it stimulating, make it something that is worth the travel. So yeah, I think that is the main thing I can give you guys as an answer.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful because that's also a good, right? If you think about the technology, but also like the campus for good in that sense is also, none of you has discussed at this moment the value of a bachelor degree or a master degree, but it's often still translated into that kind of output. That's what the university does. That's what they deliver to the labor market. But also when we see now, when we checked with on our connection board, where we're co-working members and the students can, basically express any wishes that they have. A lot of them are interested in finding an internship, finding a learning experience that is not necessarily easy at the moment, but is also, again, between the university world, the need to build a network, and also already, how they want to develop for a future job or maybe even a startup. And it's something that we learned also, like what can we place, how can we create that city plaza, that piazza to bring those communities together. And it's sometimes very small things like an event that we do where we bring this together, but I really also see these kind of programs like you mentioned, the Summer of Transformation, as an example of where we can work together between residences and the universities to traditionally host their programs in campuses. Anything? Sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry. So I completely.
I think I have. By the way, I have one. I get a sign here. I have a question from the audience that maybe you've already seen in the chat box. But Charlotte, can I?
Yeah, it's actually linked exactly to this. That's why I waited a little bit.
Charlotte is my invisible but very, very present sidekick here.
So Zafar asked, AI is changing. AI is changing jobs, and also have education providers a role in this. And so, how do your organizations apply this? So I think that
Yeah. Did you hear this, or shall I? Yeah. Okay.
Shall I read
Anyone
it
that
then?
wants that recognize that question?
Yeah, it actually ties into what I just wanted to jump in with. So I believe that everything is too siloed at the moment. So the learning, the working, the living. And so we touch upon that now in fragments also, because we talk about these different topics, but everything should come together in that sense. So I think that the same with AI, it's something that comes up in different forms and in different contexts. And we need to work together on that. So we need the piazza to actually see each other, what we're doing with it. And so it's not just about companies, giving internship places and that the school is ready to hand over the student over there. But I think we need more this co-learning environments and co-working environments and co-living environments that actually blend into each other. And so then AI is, of course, changing the world and changing jobs, but at the same time, we are also changing because we do it together. And so it's not something that happens to us. It's something that we indeed, again, create this kind of co-creative futures that we envision. That's how I think also, that's how we work with companies also. We let them invest, but not just only direct us. No, they step in with people also to learn with us. So it's this co-created environment that we need, I think.
Nice.
Yeah. Can I go into the question Jasper just asked, which is a great question? Because basically what we have been hearing in the last decade is that, watch out, people, robots are coming to take your jobs, right? So everyone, I've had law students asking me, will robot lawyers take our jobs? Will robot judges take our jobs? I've had designers come up and say, will robots replace me as a designer? I think the main thing we need to think about from an educational standpoint is that every one of us, we should at least understand what AI does. AI programming is another language, just as English is a language or Chinese is a language. If you're interested in it and you learn about it, you understand how to put it in a specific context. It does not mean, and this is what I believe in, it doesn't mean it's going to replace people in certain jobs. Our jobs will transform into something else, which means that as an educational institution, we have to actually look at our programs and think about what type of skills are we giving our students, so that they are prepared. Because listen, guys, we already have our degrees. It's not necessary for us to, look into this and take it seriously. But if we want to actually educate the future generations, because these guys are taking over from us, right? So we have to leave a legacy that they can work with, which means that we have to look at, if we're going to really, really focus on AI, what is it that we want to give to our students? What is it that we want to give to the next generation? And that is not just hardcore content. We have to give them the ethical perspectives, what to do, what not to do, what choices to make, et cetera, et cetera. We have to give them something about diversity and inclusion, because, programmer's bias does really exist. Just Google it. Another thing is that we have to give them the skills to become resilient future leaders, because technology is going to change. It's going to transform into something else. You can't keep up with the technology, but you can keep up with your skills. So these are the things that we as educational institutions need to prep for, right? Future lawyers will still be needed. And maybe the simple cases can be done through AI, but the really hard cases where you need that human intervention, that will still be a lawyer's job. So it's going to transform, not necessarily disappear, but definitely transform. And that's something we have to prepare for.
Yeah, interesting. And I guess also what the lawyers need to know, so to say, is not necessarily also the same as what they used to. Also, as you said, the skills that a lawyer needs to have to be a good lawyer, to be part of a community, to be an ethical professional, is something that often is also, I know from my business school experience that that's often forgotten. and that it was really the students that brought that back into the business school conversation and say, like, we want to learn about what's social enterprise. We want to learn about what is, what do we do beyond profit generation? And those questions, I think, are often in the degree programs not easily discussed yet. But thanks for your take on that. We're approaching the end of the program, so I would love to also invite you, Giulia and Marco, to summarize what you think is going to be important for education, and frame it from the way you are looking to work on it, because I think you know best where you see how you can generate your impact. But before we go to that, I really like to thank you for touching so many aspects of the learning experience. I mean, we started with, what did we learn from the online experience? Challenged by Farshida saying, like, no, this was remote learning. This, we've only touched upon the understanding of what online learning means. But at the same time, immediately we understood that what we do at universities, what we do when we are learning, we're doing much more than getting a degree. We really are trying to meet other people, to connect, to make friends and connections for the rest of our lives. And that our institutions, whether you're a resident or an educator or the person that is designing the campus of the future, really need to incorporate that. And for any of those that felt that the campus and the residents should remain two separate things, one for living, one for learning, I really invite you to come and visit us at the Student Hotel, because we've tried to create a lot of these communal spaces in the piazzas, and I really look forward to hear, how you experience that and how we can improve that. But a great conversation for it. I would like to give the floor to you, Giulia, and then to Marco to close this session off with your vision for the future of education. Giulia, may I invite you to go first?
Yeah, first of all, thanks, because so Marco has the final word. They are always the hardest one. Maybe the only thing that I want to add is that the concept of learning and unlearning. When Farshida was talking about AI, I was thinking about how we have to teach those things, not just to students, but even to ourselves, because we're going to be in the job market for other 30, 40 years. So I think when we talk about education, one of the main issue is how we can, as a human being, learn and unlearn continuously, because that's what the contest is asking us today and will be asking us in the future. And then, Marco, I leave the floor to you.
To the eldest, the most ready one, dear future.
I thought the cap would actually make me look younger, but thank you, Giulia. So yeah, I think I said a lot already, but we created this approach, which is called transformation design. You design for transformation, so it's a conscious movement towards transformation, and it takes a few elements that I think we should also apply to learning and education. And it's really about what Giulia just mentioned: readaptive learning. So nowadays, not all answers and not all solutions are provided by digital tools. Digital is the context, not the means for transformation. All are primarily human problems. And therefore, the key learnable skill for us is to design for transformation, to learn, relearn as we evolve. And then I think a few other things that also Farshida mentioned, I think sustainability and diversity and inclusion, really about trying to stay in the game together. So we really focus on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I think it's good, even though they are very abstract goals, it's good if people share common goals. That's one thing. And then transformation is really about I think as a vital aspect to success. So just like with Vinted, good intentions are not always enough. So you want people to buy secondhand clothing, but they actually buy more secondhand clothing. So it's not sustainable in the end. It's really about this kind of complexity, embracing that complexity. And I think that's why also as educational institutes, we need to start experimenting with that to create those attractive futures together. And like I just said, to de-silo perhaps all the different pillars in which we try to understand the world, it's actually the piazza. And that's perhaps the summary.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I look so much forward to work with all of you on our collaborations and to put into practice what we talked about today. And thank you, audience, for joining us. And please, if you have any ideas for collaborations or ideas, get in touch with us. And thank you, Codam, for hosting us today here in your studio from Amsterdam. Hi, Rome. Hi, Rotterdam. Hi, wherever you are, Marco. Thank you very much.
Amsterdam. Bye.
Thank you so much, Frank.